scheduled. We are scheduled for lots of time, until 8:30, but we will only go that long if we have questions that will take us there. So, with that, why don't we, do you have a question? No, okay. What I'd like you to do is to introduce yourself, sit down, and go down the road, and then we'll start with the presentations. So, you get a double first here this way.
Michael White.
Lenny Jarratt.
Joe Neal.
Great. All right, Michael, you will go first and with an opening statement, which is limited to 1 minute.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Michael White, and I'm running for State Senate, 31st District. My experience comes from serving in our nation's military for over 20 years. Experience in family, my wife Dawn and my son Kyle, we're building our American dream right here in Lake County in the village of Lindenhurst. Experience as a substitute teacher, a business manager, and an entrepreneur. Knowing that you have to pay your bills on time and you have to make payroll in order to have a successful business, well, the same goes for the state of Illinois. I'm going there to be your advocate for small business and job creation, to be your advocate for a balanced budget, which means fiscal discipline, and to be your advocate to help families build individual wealth. Because I believe the more money you keep at home, the more money you get to invest in your local community, your retirement, your children's education. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lenny Jarratt, and what I've been doing here locally is I've already been fighting for you. For the last 8 years, I have been fighting property tax referendums, keeping your taxes lower. I've actually gotten the Grays Lake School District to give back $6.9 million back to the taxpayers from bonds they improperly issued. So I want to go to Springfield and do the same thing there that I've been doing here. That's bringing transparency to local taxing bodies, but bringing transparency to the state government, and then fighting for you to lower the taxes and balance budgets and hold elected officials accountable. We've had the past 2 governors now go to jail. We can't continue what we're doing. Illinois is the most corrupt state in the country, and we have to stop that trend. And you have to elect people that will go down to Springfield and stand up for you and will be who they say they're going to be when they go down there. You have to look at our track records and find out, okay, is he who he says he is? And will he stand up and stay the person he is when he gets elected? And that's what you've got to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jarratt. Mr. Neal.
Thank you. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Round Lake Area Public Library for hosting this event. I am Joe Neal, running for State Senate in District 31. I think I am the best qualified candidate for this position. I was born and raised in Wadsworth, here in the district. I have a lifelong history of community involvement. I have a successful 20-year career in the civil and transportation engineering field. And I'm a civil engineering corps officer in the Navy, and I'm an Iraq War veteran. I'm running for this office because I'm cynical. I've grown cynical and frustrated with what's going on down in Springfield. We're spending too much, we're taxing too much, we're borrowing too much, and we're chasing jobs right out of this state. I believe that I have the background and I bring with me experiences that will bring fresh ideas and a fresh perspective to solve our financial problems and to bring jobs back to Illinois. And I ask for your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As soon as our first question comes up, we will take it. We'll start with you, Mr. Jarratt, since we started with Mr. Right before. What is your position on teacher pensions? Are you supporting reducing or capping pension benefits and for those that are already retired? What is your position on Quinn's proposal that eliminates health insurance support for teachers from the budget, given that retired teachers pay premiums for that insurance?
Actually, any teacher and anybody that's already earned a pension, we owe them that is part of the state constitution, and they deserve to be paid what they have already earned. I have proposed a cap on pensions for new employees and those that are non-vested, so pensions that have not been earned yet. We have to change the system because the state has not kept up with responsibilities, honestly. But the problem is, we are so broke in Illinois now that we have to change things for new teachers, for new the taxing bodies. We have to fix those pensions now. So what I proposed is actually a $75,000 maximum retirement pension after a 40-year employee. You've been there 40 years. Also ending the artificial inflation of pensions at the end of their career. That's inflating the pensions way beyond what the state can afford now. It's about $1.3 billion now above where they would have been if the pensions were used normally without the artificial inflation. I am against what Governor Quinn's trying to do on the health benefits.
And I haven't pointed out the time cards, but they are there. They're right in front. The yellow one is at 30 minutes to go, and then the red, of course, is stop. So as you can tell, I take it very seriously. So we'll hope that that works. Mr. Neal, do you want to answer this question?
Thank you. The pension system in this state is ridiculous. We have about $100 billion in unfunded pensions in this state right now, and the TRS, the Teachers Retirement System, is the worst of them all. What the state's been doing and raiding that fund for the last 20 years is absolutely unacceptable, and that's got to stop. We have to start building up that pension fund again and getting that so that we have a pension there for the teachers in the future. The unions do have to come to the table on providing a solution to this problem. The solution that's out there right now, SB 512, I believe is something that I would vote for as really the only viable solution to get control of our pension problem right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. White.
Well, thank you. Currently, where the question was about teachers being able to keep their current pension system, they put into the system they should be allowed to keep that money, to keep their pension. The health care, again, if they're paying into health care, they should be allowed to keep their health care. The problem in the state of Illinois is everyone knows that we have a pension system that is corrupt. Recently in the Tribune, they talked about an individual who was a union lobbyist who came and worked as a substitute teacher for a day, and now that individual is collecting a pension at his union pay as a lobbyist, not as an educator. And those are the things that because this is wrapped by our Illinois Constitution, we may have to go into the Constitution and fix, because these people are being protected through their corrupt activity by a Constitution. And that is an issue that takes away from money from the teachers who did work hard 30 and 40 years. And the corruption is a huge problem that we have to solve. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, Mr. Neal, this will go to you first. But the question is a very broad one. What cuts should be made in the budget?
To give everybody a perspective of how bad our budget problem is right now, we'll have to cut spending 6 to 7% over the next 5 years across the board in order to balance our budget and eliminate the deficit. And I'm not saying that that's a standard cut I'll put across the board, but just to put that in perspective. So cuts are going to have to be made, and there's going to have to be some hard choices. One of the major areas that we can save in is Medicaid. In 2003, we had 1.6 million people on Medicaid. We now have 2.8. It's going to be 3 million next year. That's over 1 in 5 recipients. We have to look at eligibility levels in Illinois. Eligibility and verification requirements is too high. We have to bring those down to national standards, and estimates show that we will save $1.6 billion a year in that. And we also need to implement a Medicaid recapture audit, which is said to will save 10% in Medicaid costs.
Thank you. Mr. White.
Cuts to be made. I, as a candidate, have pledged never to take a pension from being in an elected office, whether Senate or any other office. I think that's the first thing that any one of us can do. Also, I don't believe that we should be giving out a legislative scholarship. That actually hurts our education system. It's another unfunded mandate on our colleges. As everyone will state here, that we are $1 billion in debt. The state is borrowing money. They call it inter-fund borrowing. They borrow from different funds within the state, and they do that throughout the year. They have to pay it back along with interest. The things I'd like to see cut: high-speed rail. I'd like to see us cut the 3rd airport. If we're going to invest in rail, we should be investing in Metro. It takes people to work. our current Amtrak system. But we're investing in a whole and differently entire system to take people from Chicago to Springfield, which is interesting. A lot of politicians will like that. It gets them to Springfield back to Chicago, as well as going all the way to St. Louis. But we have to pay attention to what our priorities are. Thank you.
Mr. Jarratt.
Yes, one of the things that I'd like to see cut is the health planning board. That board, we can save several $1 million right there. Medicaid, we just need to verify that people actually live in the state of Illinois, and that'll save us $650 million a year right there. The next thing we have to do is we have to change our accounting system. Right now, the state uses cash accounting. We do not use accrual accounting. When we switch to accrual accounting, open up the books so everybody can see what is being sent and how much each program actually costs, that's when we're going to find out where the waste is and what needs to be cut. Because right now, you can ask any legislator you want what cuts to be made. There's always little cuts and there's always reasons behind it. A lot of it is they do not know how much each program actually costs. And until we change the accounting system, we will never actually have a true accounting and really knowing where the cost is and where the waste is and where we can actually cut. So first thing we do is change the accounting system, and along with the other cuts, verifying residency for Medicaid.
Thank you. On our next round of questions, we will actually start with Mr. Jarratt, and this will be the first question. Should there be a sales tax on services, not just on goods?
Okay, so it should be Mr. White first this time. Keep it in order.
You're right.
I do not favor sales tax on services. I think right now small business is struggling, and most services are based off of small business. Between our property taxes and the sales taxes, and putting another service tax is a great way to drive revenue, but it isn't good for small business. And every expert out there is talking about the growth of small business is what's going to pull us out of the recession, make things happen, and that they are the job creators that are in the next century. And so as we move forward, taxing that service does nothing to benefit small business at all.
Thank you. And yes, you can pass it right around.
No, we should not tax services. Last year when Springfield raised the income tax on businesses of 46%, we lost over 72,000 jobs in Illinois. We lost more jobs than any other state in the country last year. Another tax is not going to help the problem. Springfield has a spending problem. They don't have a revenue problem. And that's what we've got to get through to them. They cannot continue to suck money out of the economy to give it to Springfield to do with their backroom deals and get their friends jobs. It's early night, one of the county board members, there were 2 people on the county board, one of those is not running again. He just got a job for $90,000 in Springfield, and its appointment, it doesn't even have to get approved anywhere. That's the kind of stuff we have to stop, and that's what we have to do, is we don't need any more taxes. We have to cut spending.
Thank you, Mr. Neal.
I agree. We do not need to be adding more taxes into the system. Again, with that 67% increase on taxes to families and the increase in business taxes, we took in a record $33 billion of revenue last year, and they still came in with a budget of about $34.5 billion. So, you know, we just can't trust the government in general with new revenue streams. As Lenny said, we do not have a spending problem. We do not have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. So I would not support such a new tax.
Okay. And Mr. White, this is for you. No, it's not.
No.
I have you. You're going to get a lot of opportunity. No, because it should be. It is Mr. Chair. My chart even says it. So, what can be done to increase jobs in the community?
I've actually put up a jobs plan on my website already. It's called Restore Jobs. First thing I would do is lower the income tax for businesses, for all businesses, and make it voluntary. They can voluntarily cut their own taxes back to 4.5%, which is 0.3% less than what it was before Springfield raised taxes, and it's 0.75 below where it will be after the rollback. And what you do, for any company that wants to do this, all they have to do is e-verify their employees. So they're making sure that all their employees are legally able to work inside Illinois, and then they get the voluntary tax cut, and that will bring jobs back to Illinois. We can make Illinois a destination state for jobs, and that's how we bring jobs back.
Thank you. Mr. Neal?
Well, first, I would immediately repeal the 67% income tax increase if I could. I would repeal the increase on businesses from 7% back down to 4.8%. I would look at reforming regulations in this state, particularly workmen's compensation laws and unemployment insurance laws, which are way too expensive for businesses, and that is one of the main drivers for companies that are suffering in this state. And I would also like to look at ideas on providing incentives for employers to create new jobs. And I propose a $1,500 tax credit for a business for every new employee that they put on the books.
Thank you. And so this will be Mr. White. But we're starting with the...
Do I get to answer this question?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Job creation.
Similar with 7 people.
Job creation. If we look at recently at what's happening in Illinois, Caterpillar, which stated that there was a bad business climate in Illinois, that the overall state fiscal health was a problem. They are growing in other states, in Georgia, I believe South Carolina, because it had a port. We don't have one in Illinois, but they are expanding in Georgia in manufacturing. So that leads to you to believe in many of the situations of workman's comp being too high, property taxes being too high, corporate taxes being too high. In fact, the state hasn't even paid all the corporate tax refunds back to businesses. So in small business, there's one key element you'll hear at every business meeting when you go networking, and it's called trust. People of Illinois don't trust government, and businesses don't trust government. And until we regain that trust, businesses will not come to Illinois, and families will struggle in Illinois because we don't trust what's going on in Springfield. Thank you.
And the way I'm counting it, it's Mr. Neal. And the question is, do you support school vouchers?
Yes, I do support school vouchers. I think competition in the school system and giving parents opportunity to put their schools in other options other than the public school system is a good thing, and it overall helps the entire school system.
Thank you. And then we go to Mike.
Thank you. I do support school vouchers. I think when it comes to education, we have to determine what's important in education. Are we using education to train our children to get jobs and live independent lives? And if that's it's important to us, then school vouchers, we should try it. We have to try whatever it takes to get our children educated so they can live independent lives. Maybe we have to try it in a small area in one county and see how that works, but we're not trying different things to educate our children to make them independent. We're failing as a state, and our schools are failing our children.
Mr. Jarratt.
Education is the foundation for our whole society. You have to have an educated populace. And I am in favor of funding every child equally so that every child has the opportunity to get access to a quality education. As we've seen from the programs up in Milwaukee, some new studies are out right now, every child in Milwaukee, not just the ones who accepted the money, the voucher to go to a different school, but the kids that were left behind in the other schools that stayed in the public school system, the regular systems, also their educational outcomes were improved. It's been proved over and over again. There's a school on the south side of Chicago, in one of the worst areas. 50% of the kids there don't graduate from school. This school graduates 100% of their kids. Every one of them goes on to college. A lot of this is attitude, and the kids have the aptitude. We just have to empower the parents to help their kids and get more involved, bring them more involvement into the school so that they help their kids learn and grow.
Thank you. I think that does it for that round of questions. Mr. White, you should be first on this. I'm glad to hear that. This is an interesting question. Have you received any endorsements? If so, who?
I have some family members, but in all seriousness, the Daily Herald did endorse me. Other than that, I don't know of any other endorsements.
Mr. Jarratt.
I don't know if I can remember them all, actually. The Wakanda Township Republican Club, John Serpalis, former executive director of the Illinois GOP, about 15 different Tea Party groups around the state of Illinois and Tea Party leaders. Let's see. I've just got a new endorsement, Jim Leahy, the Executive Director for the Republican Assembly of Illinois, the Adam Andrzejewski, Bruno Barron, and you'll have to go to my website to look at the rest of them because the list is actually way too long for me to remember them all, unfortunately. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I was very proud to find out this morning that I received the Chicago Tribune endorsement. I was also endorsed by Stanford Children of Illinois. I'm supported by many trusted community leaders. Willard Helander, our state rep Joanne Osmond, Sue Simpson, Warren Township Supervisor, Royce Lee Wood, the Regional Superintendent of Schools, Sally Kofelt, Betty Thompson, Ms. Thompson Carter, County Board Member. I'm sure there's several others here that I'm not thinking of at the time. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's it for that round of questions. Should corporations be given tax breaks to stay in Illinois? And with that, we'd start with, again, Mr. Wyatt.
No. He went first last time.
Yes. Well, yes, he did. Yes, he did. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's start with Mr. Jarratt.
The problem with giving tax breaks to single companies is the state is then picking winners and losers. And as I said before, every company should be able to get a tax break, not just those that can afford to buy a lobbyist who send them down to Springfield to get a tax break. Just the fact that they need a tax break to want to stay here proves the fact that taxes are already too high, and there's a problem with the system. That's our problem. The government should not be picking winners and losers, and this is just a perfect example of crony capitalism and backroom dealings, however you want to do it. Everybody deserves the tax break, not just individual companies.
Thank you, Mr. Neal.
Could you repeat that question, please?
Sure. Should corporations be given tax breaks to stay in Illinois?
I think you have to, based on our current tax code, it's completely unfair to businesses all around. I think it's a shame that companies feel the need that they have to go down to Springfield and ask for all these breaks. We need to provide a fair tax code across the board. What people don't understand is that 90% of businesses are small businesses in this state, and they can't afford a lobbyist or a lawyer to go down to Springfield and get deals cut for them. As a state senator, that will be part of my job, to look out for the small businessman and go down and represent them. So I think you have to look at those issues one by one based on how many jobs are potentially going to be lost. We have a very serious jobs problem in this state. So I think you have to look at that case by case. Thank you.
Mr. White.
I do not support tax breaks for corporations. I think Illinois needs tax reform. Along with that, I think we have to take a serious look at how government, whether local and statewide, our relationship with business. As you go into any state, I think the answer coming from Springfield should be, how can I help you? So when businesses come here, how are we going to help them succeed in Illinois, no matter who they are? And the current businesses that are here, they're leaving. And again, just like Caterpillar, there are others, and we need to help them stay in the state and start to manufacture here. So a state should have a very close relationship with business to find out what their needs and concerns are so we can start building jobs in Illinois.
Thank you. Another question. Should Lake County and the state of Illinois consider elimination, reduction, or sustaining the township form of government? And we will start with Mr. Neal.
I think we need to retain the township form of government. When it's done right, we've seen what townships in this area have done that very successfully help the communities. I mean, they're basically should be the social service arm of the government. And when you look at Warren Newport Township, when you look at Zion Benton Township, these are some very well-run townships that deserve to remain in place. I mean, this is basically what I feel is a scapegoat from the Illinois government because they have not been handling their finances prudently. And I think we need to protect the township system of government. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. White.
I do do support keeping townships. I think that the greater question here again, as we talk about the taxes in the state of Illinois not being able to pay what they've done is increase taxes, and when it comes to corporations and personal taxes, but that money does not get sent back down to local government. And again, where the state is spending more and local government's hurting more. Townships and cities have to, and villages have to build better relationships, I think, because there are areas that are probably redundant. Can they help each other when it comes to snow removal? Are there certain roads that they can plow together? But they need to work, I think, in a more cooperative spirit, and I think that would help them reduce their costs.
Mr. Jarratt?
Yeah. Illinois has over 7,000 taxing bodies. It is the most of any state in the country, and it is ridiculous we have that many taxing bodies. The problem is, though, Springfield should not decide which taxing bodies to get rid of or to consolidate. It should be left up to you, the voters. The problem is right now, the way you get things on the ballot for referendum, it makes it very difficult to do that. And we need to, as the state, we do need to create a way to allow the local communities to decide, do you want this township? Do you want the assessor's office at the townships, or do you want them consolidated? There's lots of ways here to do things, but it's up to the voters to decide what to do and how to do that, and not let it not be done at the state. One of the things you'll have is been going around here now. One of the recorder of deeds candidates actually wants to get rid of the recorder of deeds office, merge it into the county clerk's office. That's something we should be looking at. Actually, it's I think 86 counties in Illinois have already gotten rid of the recorders of deeds office that same way. So it should be left to the voters, and it should be easier for the voters to be able to accomplish that if they want to.
Thank you. The next question is, during difficult economic times, persons without jobs or looking for better employment rely on public libraries as resources for free or low-cost help for job searches, computer classes, research materials, and continuing education. Given this need, how do you propose to ensure continued state funding to libraries without increasing the tax burden on residents?
Well, that's the million-dollar question for the state of Illinois in general. Everybody wants something. I will say that public libraries actually do have a very important role during this economic time, because they are the gathering place not only for job searches. You use the internet to get online. They're entertainment when times are tough for families. And I think as a state, again, the state has failed. It's failed because we have not balanced that budget through fiscal discipline. And there are no easy fixes to anything that you're going to hear about tonight, except for one thing, and that's spend less. And that means things like people who go to office not taking a pension, not giving scholarships, working to control their cost expense. That's what we can do as individuals the first day in office. And we have to fight continually to set the priorities of jobs, education, the things that are important to the people of Illinois. And part of that are our libraries. But at the end of the day, we are stuck in a situation that's been built over many years.
Yeah, libraries provide a very valuable service to the community. They do provide entertainment, they do provide access to the internet and computers that some people don't have access to at their homes. So they need to be there. The thing about it is you have to look at libraries just like every other government entity though. Can they be consolidated to help out? How are they spending their money? You know, in just tough economic times, are they handing out raises and stuff as well, just like the others are when they shouldn't be? So the burden is not necessarily, shouldn't have to fall on the taxpayer all the time. Is because the taxing bodies themselves have to govern themselves, and that's why the local elections are so important, to get people, good people, elected to the local offices, to the library boards, to the school boards. You'll have 3 or 4 people up on every library board next spring. If you don't like the way they're being run, get active, get out there, run for the board. That's what you have to do, and that's how we start to control costs at these local levels.
I consider public libraries to be a very important part of a community's education, or ability to access education and resources for education. So just like the state, we are supposed to be providing 51% of education funding, and that helps kind of equalize and provide more equitable education for all communities throughout Illinois. And I think that same mentality for our public libraries needs to be applied. So I think we do need to provide some state funding for public libraries so that the less fortunate, the less wealthy communities will have access to good public libraries as well as the richer ones.
Thank you. Believe it or not,
I'm a candidate for this with my community involvement, my Navy service, my career as an engineer. I have built some skills and leadership that do not come from a political background. They come from a history of building consensus and nonpartisan methods to solve problems for the community. Again, I'm a naval reservist. I only joined 3 years ago, and one thing that they drive into everybody's head in the Navy is their 3 core values: honor, courage, commitment. Honor is doing the right thing, courage is to do the right thing, even when everybody else isn't or in the face of adversity, and commitment is to always do the right thing. And I'm going to bring those core values with me to Springfield, and I ask for your vote and your support to do that. Thank you very much.
Mr. Jarratt.
I want to thank all you for coming out tonight, and thank the League of Women Voters and the Round Lake Library for holding this event to let us come talk. That's the best way for you to get to find out who the candidates are, is to listen to us and ask us questions and hear the answers. Again, this state is in a fiscal crisis. We have to do something, and we have to not make excuses anymore. It's time to send somebody to Springfield that isn't going to make excuses that you know is going to go down there and work for you. Look at our track records, find out what we've done, and you're going to see that I've already been out there fighting for you for the last 8 years, fighting to lower your taxes, fighting to help you, keep the property taxes low, fighting for what you need in this community. Because that's our problem right now. We have too many people in Springfield that just go down there to get along. They get down and they start doing what everybody else wants. They want to be there. The establishment wants them there because they know they're going to vote with them every time. They know when I get down there, I'm not going to be voting with them every time. I will vote with them on certain issues, but I'm going to be fighting for the people, not for the bureaucracy and not for the government. I'm going down there to support you, the citizens, and the families of Illinois. And look at my jobs plan. I've already put out a jobs plan with numbers. I put out a pension plan with numbers. These may not pass as they are now, but I'm putting stuff out there that we can start having the discussions with. We can start having the conversations. The stuff that's not happening now in Springfield. They just want to keep talking and never doing anything, and we have to change that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wayne.
I would like to thank the League of Women Voters, the Round Lake Area Public Library for putting together tonight's event, as well as the young adults who came out and volunteered their time. In Illinois, we have a lot of problems, but we also have many more solutions. And I believe in service before self-leadership. And what that means is it takes compassion, understanding, and respect to deal with everybody, to build the relationships and the coalitions that really require to make the changes that we need in Springfield. And I believe that we can do these things for the 31st District as well as for the state of Illinois. And as I said in my opening, I'm going there to be your advocate for fiscal discipline, small business and job growth, and to help families build individual wealth. Because again, I think the more money we have back home is the more money we can actually invest in ourselves. Thank you.
I really want to thank the candidates for being with us tonight and sharing their thoughts with the audience. I think they've done a great job, and they certainly deserve again